السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. إن شاء الله تعالى we'll go through ayah number 6. Ayah number 6 from Surah At-Talaq. So open the Mus'haf inshallah and we'll go through this ayah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from it inshallah. It's a bit long ayah. We'll go through it inshallah. So we'll start with the recitation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أسكنوهن من حيث سكنتم من وجدكم ولا تضاروهن لتضيقوا عليهن وإن كن أولات حمل فأنفقوا عليهن حتى يضعن حملهن فإن أرضعن لكم فآتوهن أجورهن وأتمروا بينكم بمعروف وإن تعاسرتم فسترضع له أخرى أسكنوهن. As we see in the surah that there's so many noon with shadda because of the feminine. أسكنوهن noon with shadda takes two counts. من حيث سكنتم إخفاء سكنتم. ميو noon سكون after it واو إدغام وضغنة ميو and the واو has a ضمة ميو وجدكم وجدكم. Say وجدكم like this because it's not the easiest word also because of the dhamma on the waw, and then you have the jim with the sukun, you make qalqala. من وجدكم ولا تضاروهن. The mad here is 6 counts. It's like ولا الضالين because it's حرف مد ألف and after it a letter with shadda. So you make it 6 counts. And then you have the noon with shadda takes 2 counts. لتضيقوا make sure the ta is light, ضاد is heavy, قاف is heavy. لتضيقوا عليهن نون والشدة takes 2 counts. وإن إخفاء وإن كن نون والشدة takes 2 counts. أولات حمل إخفاء حمل فأنفقوا 2 إخفاء here 2 counts 2 counts. فأنفقوا عليهن نون والشدة takes 2 counts حتى يضعن حملهن. فإن أرضعن لكم the ra is heavy. فإن أرضعن لكم فآتوهن شدة أجورهن same thing. وأتمروا بينكم بمعروف إخفاء باء after it ميم والسكون. If you continue بمعروف إدغام. وإن إخفاء وإن تعاسرتم فسترضع له أخرى. The translation of the ayah. I read the translation. Lodge them in a section of where you dwell out of your means and do not harm them in order to oppress them. And if they should be pregnant, then spend on them until they give birth. And if they breastfeed for you, then give them their payment and confer among yourselves in the acceptable way. But if you are in discord, then there may breastfeed for him, meaning the father, another woman. And then it will be continued with regards to the nafaqah or the spending. So this is in a continuation of what happens after the talaq or after the divorce and the iddah, the counted period afterwards, and on some of the rulings of where the woman then, if she's divorced and the owner of the house is her husband. Should she stay in the house or she should leave? Or so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أسكنوهن من حيث سكنتم. You lodge them, you make them a house, and second is the home. So you make them stay in where they lived, meaning after their divorce, when they were married, that she stays in her house till the idda period is gone. So if a man divorces his wife, she is not to leave her house, and she should not leave her house even willingly. You know, she still is to stay in the house of her husband, and the husband is not permissible for him to to say that she leaves my house. If he's the owner of the house, she stays there till the idda is over. أسكنوهن من حيث سكنتم, from the same lodging or the same housing that you have. من وجدكم. وجدكم, as we'll talk about it, that means from your ability, from your spaciousness. That means whatever you have means. Like, for example, if he doesn't find any place, then you make it right next to him and things like this. ولا تضروهن, and do not harm them. Do not harm your wives after divorce, because after divorce, then it shows the person whether he is an evil person or a good person. So if a person is evil, he can cause all kinds of fujur and wickedness towards his wife if he divorces her. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَلَا تُضَرُّهُنْ, do not harm them whatsoever. لِتُضَيِّقُوا عَلَيْهِنْ, to make it tight for them. What is the meaning of this? That he would make it difficult for her so that she would give up on the mahr, for example, right? So if he divorced her, he's supposed to give her the mahr, that if there was anything left on the mahr, for example, or even if he paid all of the mahr, he might make it difficult for her. For what reason? So that she would ask for khul'a, and he's not going to give talaq. For what reason? So that he would get money back, basically, or the like of this, whether it's like that, or to make it difficult for her by harming her by being staying, if she stays in her house, so that she would say, I'm leaving, because he's causing harm to her. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the command not just to make her stay in her household, but also to make sure that it's not being done with any harm. A person would say, okay, she stays, but then he's going to plot and do all kinds of evil things, so that she would willingly say, I cannot stay here anymore. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it very clear, وَلَا تُضَرُّهُنْ, do not harm them, to make it difficult and tight for them. وَإِن كُنَّ أُولَاتِ حَمْلٍ, and if they are pregnant, أُولَاتِ حَمْلٍ, that means they're carrying babies, that means they have pregnancy, then you spend upon them till حَتَّى يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ, till they give birth. And this is basically if the idda ends when she gives birth. So that means you have to spend on her, and she stays there. And this is the case for any woman that is divorced, and her idda period is to be spent upon till the idda is over with. And if she's pregnant, as mentioned before, that her idda, her waiting period, is till she gives birth. So it can be 9 months or 8 months, whatever. And if it's the third divorce, then it's over with. If she's still pregnant, he has to spend on her till she gives birth. فَإِنْ أَرْضَعْنَ لَكُمْ, that means if they breastfeed the child for you after she gives birth, that means she's divorced and she gave birth, and that child belongs to the father and the mother. And if she breastfeed the child, which is the normal thing is, but some would have others to breastfeed their children. فَإِنْ أَرْضَعْنَ لَكُمْ, that means if they breastfeed your child for you, فَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنْ, you give them what is due for them. That means you have to spend on them, basically, because your child is being breastfed. Of course, a woman or a mother would do that to her child, but the one that would support that child because he's being breastfed is she will be supported by her divorcee, the husband that divorced her. The spending on the child is upon the husband or upon the father, not upon the mother. And these are the rules from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means he also the one that has the decisions to be made for his child, meaning the father, unless there is harm or so. But again, with matters of divorce, all kinds of evil things can happen as a result of this dispute. And that's why people have to fear Allah and to make sure that they apply the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, this specific ruling, if she is going to breastfeed her child, that means is the husband to continue to spend on her because she's breastfeeding her child, his child. وَأْتَمِرُوا بَيْنَكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ, reminding them, have وَأْتَمِرُوا, that means be with each other with matters of enjoining what is good between both of you. Right? Do not be harmful towards one another. That the husband wants to revenge from his wife that he divorced to the best of his ability, and she's the same thing, and they make the children as the victims in their own evil disputes, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if one is not, then the other one should observe the commands of Allah. وَأْتَمِرُوا بَيْنَكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ وَإِن تَعَسَرْتُمْ فَسَتُرْضِعُ لَهُ أُخْرَى. And if it's tight, it's difficult, she's not able to breastfeed her child, then someone else is to do it because of the rights of the child. And then the next verse will talk about the spending, each one according to their ability. Imam Sa'di rahimahullah, he said that, as mentioned before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade men from moving out their wives if they divorce them from the homes. So it's forbidden for them to make them leave. And here the command is to make them live, and to make them live and lodge them in with matters of ma'ruf. That means they stay in their house, they're being spent upon with matters of goodness, what's known to be their livelihood matters and things like this, the like of what he lives, according to his wujd, according to his ability, of course, whether the matter is easy for him or difficult for him. And as the second command, each command is something to be observed and not to harm them while they're living. And the harm here is with speech or actions. So, she can be staying in her household, right? And the husband is not taking her out or not, but he would say things to her, verbal, to make it difficult for her, to make her uncomfortable, so that she'll give up and she wants to leave before the iddah period is over. So it becomes the man is the one that really took her out when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade him, because of the constant, verbal abuse that he's doing or saying things bad to her, or physically. So that what's forbidden here is that they are driven out of their homes. They are commanded to stay in their homes in a way that there's no harm for them, there's no difficulty, and this is all returned to matters of the norm, and it shows the perfect command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if these divorcees are pregnant, then to spend on them because of the pregnancy that they have, even if it's a third divorce. And the end of it is when she gives birth. And then after that, there's the breastfeeding. So if she breastfeed her child, and which is what is recommended for the mother to do that, then she will be given what is sufficient for her to live her life from her previous husband. وَأْتَمِرُوا بَيْنَكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. That means أَتَمِرُوا from al-amr, command one another to do matters of goodness. You do good and you advise the other to do good. And what is good is what is benefiting, and what is benefiting in this life and in hereafter, towards one another and towards the child if there's a child. Because the ghafla, as he says, to overlook this issue of enjoining the good, to tell the other person also to do good, evil comes as a result of not doing this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So, right? That means both of them, they should, and everybody should advise and give, sincere advising and things like this, because this helps people to help one another in matters of righteousness and the taqwa of Allah, which is perfectly in this context, because when spouses divorce, at the time of iddah especially, right, especially if they have a child, they would easily can argue and fight and things like this when it comes to spending on the husband spending on his wife or spending on the child. And that happens as a result of hatred towards one another. And this is something that is forbidden, and people should care for one another and seek rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if in such a situation. And this good living, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even mentioned in the verse, to remember the good times or the good days that they had together, and not to be evil in their dispute. And if they were not able to have an agreement when it comes to breastfeeding the child, then let someone else breastfeed the child if she doesn't want to. Or maybe, for example, the child is not accepting the the breastfeeding from his mother. Sometimes it happens also, or she refusing, or she doesn't have the means, right? So then someone else should, of course, take care of the child because he needs to be breastfed. And then the next verse will talk about some of the spending or the things to be done for the women as a result of the iddah. But when we look at the words of the ayat, askinuhunna, right? That means launch them from second. Second is the lodging or home that, to keep them there and to spend on them, not just to make them live there. And comes from the sukoon when things are not moving, when things are having. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is one of the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He ja'ala min buyutikum sakana. He made from your homes second place of tranquility and things like this. So askinuhunna min haythu sakantum, from where you live, the same way that you're living. So even you divorced your wife, you have to be kind that she lives in the same way. Min wujidikum. Wujidikum, the kaf mim at the end, your. Al-wujd, it is basically your means, your spaciousness. Wajada is when you find something, right? And wujd is basically from what you find of provisions or what you have of provisions, the means that you have. From the means that you have, then you spend from them. You're not commanded to spend on them beyond your capacity, from what you have. وَلَا تُضَرُّهُنَّ, and do not harm them. From darar, al-harm, any harm whatsoever is forbidden. لِتُضَيِّقُوا, lam here for the reason, so that you would distress them or make it tight for them. From dad ya qaf, and al-diq is the opposite of spaciousness. وحتى إذا ضاقت عليهم الأرض بما رحبت, when the earth becomes tight on them. لِتُضَيِّقُوا عَلَيْهِنْ, and every word has its significance. You see, words can make it very tight for the person. A person has to be extremely careful when it's disputes and things like this, to fear Allah, to be obedient to Allah, and to have goodness and spaciousness in oneself, and generosity with one's being, and so on. And it doesn't have to be that the other person is like this. Each one of us is commanded, and we will be asked about it in the Day of Judgment. And then وَإِن كُنَّ, and if they are, meaning the divorced woman, ulati hamlin, that means she is from those who have an ulat from alif wa lam, that means she is pregnant, she has pregnancy. فَأَنْفِقُوا, then spend upon them, عليهن, on them, حتى يضعن, till they give, يضعن, put down their burden, or the حملهن, or the pregnancy. فَإِنْ أَرْضَعْنَا, if they breastfeed, from رضع, and this is to suckle, to nurse. If they breastfeed, if they nurse, لَكُمْ, for you, and for you, because the one responsible fully when it comes to spending and financial being of the child is the father. So she is, after divorce, she's doing it for her husband. She's doing it, of course, for herself because she's a mother, right? But she is to be given, to be spent upon because of this. He has to spend on her. فَآتُوهُنَّ, then to give them أُجُورَهُنَّ, their payment. وَأْتَمِرُوا, and consult and enjoin and command one another, from amara. وَأْتَمِرُوا بَيْنَكُمْ, among yourselves, بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, with what is known to be kindness, with goodness. وَإِن تَعَسَرْتُمْ, and if you disagree, from عَسَرَ, from عين سين را, العسر is the tightness, difficulties. فإن مع العسر يسرا. أن تعسرتم, it has this the structure of the word is that means you have difficulty towards one another. That means you're disagreeing. The matter is difficult to find an agreement. فسترضع له أخرى, then may another one. Then in the future, ترضع, referring to a woman, someone else would, ترضع له, for him, أخرى, another woman, she can breastfeed the child. So as we heard some of the rulings here to be observed, and to get to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us in all matters. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed also to happen among people, and there's rulings to be observed. So it shows the obligation of, again, lodging and spending on the woman when she's divorced, the first or the second divorce, and her waiting period. It's mandatory upon the husband. And also the pregnant woman till she give birth. And also the obligation of lodging and spending to the one that, of course, if the husband died, of course, the same thing. And this according to the ability of the person. If a person is poor, then he gives what he's able to do without putting any burden over the person that he is not able to bear. Okay, so we'll stop here inshallah ta'ala and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit and to make us learn the deen of Allah. And as you see here, the taqwa of Allah in all walks of life, in all different situations and relationships, and to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all levels, this is an obligation upon each and every one of us. And again, as a reminder, these are the best 10 days of the year, and we should seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be busy with ibadah and dhikr and reading Quran and takbir, and to be also warned against sins and forgetfulness in these days, and to make the hearts fully attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us on to what is right, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.